to the Transportation Sales Tax Program. I'm Cheryl Harleston. We're here at the Downtown Library, and there's some interesting things going on in this room as it has to do with rice. And you know that Charleston County government has a rice program. It's called the Traveling Trunk. And this is even nicer, probably in some respects, but we like what we do too. But it's good to know that the rice idea and that rice and the things that it stands for are being spread all over Charleston County and throughout the state of South Carolina. I'd like you to meet Miss Blazier and Charlotte, right?
Yes.
And she is in charge of, or manager of children's services here at the Downtown Library. And she's having an activity today involving young people and rice. What's this all about? When did you come up with this idea?
Well, we here at the library love to offer after-school programming to the kids. They come over from the various elementary schools downtown and they're looking for something to do. So we always want to have fun but educational programs for them to be entertained with after school. Recently, we've been talking a lot about rice and how important rice is in Charleston and how much it affects all the people of Charleston. And so we thought it would be really neat to kind of introduce rice in an educational way, but also in a fun way.
And this is South Carolina history you're doing here. Do the youngsters realize that?
You know, they know a lot more than I thought they did.
I saw them.
Yes, talking to them about it, we learned that they know a lot more than we thought about the rice and the importance of it in Charleston County.
Are they making the connection between the rice that's on the table and the rice that they're handling right now?
I really hope that they are, and we try to do different activities to kind of make that connection a little bit more for them so that they can see that not just what's in the fields is just in the fields, that it does actually get cultivated and become what they're eating.
How have you told them that this rice comes from people who were enslaved and brought to this country? How do you let them know about that?
Well, you know, it's very important that we be very open and upfront about our history. It's a very long history, but the kids learn a lot in school. They learn a lot with their families. All over Charleston, there's history. So I feel like they have a really good grasp on how our country has evolved over the years, especially in Charleston.
Did you find that these children and the others that you've come into contact with, in fact, know this kind of history? African Americans contribute rice and they contribute other things. Do they know that?
I think they do. I think they do. They learn a lot. We offer programs here at the library. There's tons being done at the schools that really educate the kids and show them how we have evolved as a country and the history that is behind that.
Now you're making this almost a game, and I see that the rice is purple, blue, green, and all these other colors. So I imagine that makes it more interesting, but you also have Rice Krispies. What are you doing here?
We're going to be making some Rice Krispie treats today. One of the things that we find when doing programs for kids is we want to educate them, but we also want to throw in a lot of fun stuff. And adding food always gets them involved. So if we're telling them that there's going to be snacks or treats, we can definitely get the kids involved. And then once we've got them in here, we can throw in some of the education stuff too.
Now, what kind of program is this? It's not school. They're not in school today or at this moment.
No, we call this our After School Adventures program, and it's a special program that we offer on Thursdays at 3:30 to all the after-school kids. And it's just something for them to do that's fun, interesting. We do movies, games, different types of book parties, rice programs, all sorts of different things.
It was nice to see the traveling trunk here.
Yes.
How did you come about that, and how are you using it?
Well, the Traveling Trunk program was introduced to us by Nick Butler, the archivist here at the Charleston County Library. And he got me in touch with the Roadwise group and told me about the Traveling Trunk. And I realized that this was perfect for our program because this had all of the information that we were trying to convey to the children in some really neat ways, that they can look at the rice before it was husked. They can look at the fanner baskets and see all of the pieces and parts that are involved in making rice.
How do you think and feel about portraying history through a trunk that's filled with various pieces of history? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great way for kids to learn history. When I was a kid, I just sat and looked at a book all day, and it was not very exciting for me. So the fact that there are different ways that kids can learn about history, especially in things that they can touch and see, I think it's fantastic.
Which has been the most appealing to you? Has it been the rice itself? Has it been the fanner basket? What is the best thing that the kids seem to deal with?
I like the drum. The drum's really fun, but the fanner basket's pretty cool too. Just to know how they created the rice by tossing the baskets back and forth is really neat.
What did you tell them about the drum?
The drum, the African drum, it's a symbol of the culture of the Africans, and it was very, very important to preserve that culture during a very difficult time. And so through song and music, drumming, there's a whole other layer of culture that we get to explore and understand.
I noticed that African American history is beginning to catch on in the schools and other places. Is this just the beginning of something great?
I sure hope so.
You're teaching it here, and that's for sure.
Yes.
And do you hear from other students and parents and schools that want their children to experience this kind of thing?
Definitely, definitely. And by having these experiences and then going out into the library and finding books all on these different subjects is great for us too here at the library, because we can get kids reading and looking at things and learning more about their history and their culture.
What's the approximate age of these children?
It's about 7 to 11.
And that's a good age, isn't it?
It is. They're like sponges.
Do you think they can remember these things that they experienced?
I think so. I remember being a child myself and the experiences I had at my public library, and those stayed with me so long that I became a librarian. So I hope that these experiences will stay with them too.
But don't you think this is a great forum to put it in?
It is.
It's not just because it's our program. That's the Charleston County Transportation Sales Tax Program. It's one of the things that it's done to mitigate the fact that we were using a portion of a plantation for our road.
Yes.
And so we went down in history as a consequence.
It's really neat how you can discover history right in your backyard.
Yeah, and it's all over the place now. It's in Dorchester County and Charleston County, of course, and Berkeley County, and we're talking to folks in Georgetown as well. So the word is being spread, and that's all right with you.
Yeah, I like to hear it.
Is it going to continue, this program here?
I sure hope so. The more people we can get at the Charleston County Library is great for us.
Well, you're a great teacher.
Thank you.
And you make it sound like fun, and they seem to enjoy it. We're going to be talking with some others about rice in our community, and it seems like it's a big deal now. There are a lot of important people getting involved, and we want you to hear from some of them as well.
The Traveling Trunk Program, Anson Mills has always, and so has the Carolina Girl Rice Foundation, which was founded for education. Anson Mills has always thought that the idea of the stodgy old rice planter with all these moldy books in the library needed to have some vibrancy. We are thrilled to be able to support the Traveling Trunk Program that actually gives school children a chance to connect with the culture. If you load children up and take them to a site, feed them some rice, let them pound some rice, or try to, fanner rice, the trunk actually gives them a little overview and things they can do in place. And I think that whatever you get to schools in general that's egalitarian, culturally correct, and insightful, and real smart, like the Traveling Trunk Program, is going to win.
The work associated with Palmetto Commerce Parkway Roadwise program allowed us to study 11 plantations in Dorchester, Berkeley, and Charleston counties in order to see broad patterns and maybe understand the ways the landscapes and the early geography was adapted to grow rice in. A lot of this information wound up becoming a part of a traveling trunk that teachers can use to educate children. And one of the missions of the Rice Forum today and yesterday was to help get this story out to the public in more general terms so that everyone can better understand and really appreciate the past that we all share here in South Carolina that was built on rice.
I'm a part of the Rice Symposium and also a part of the initiation of rice back into the culture so that our kids would get a better understanding of the history and the culture and how important their the roles of their ancestors were in creating a 250-year economy that built the Southeast and created some of the most beautiful cities in the world, up and down the Gullah Geechee corridor and all around Rice.
The revitalization of rice culture in general, you can't survive in a cultural vacuum, so it does no good to just say, okay, now we have some rice, if people have forgotten why we had rice to begin with. So I think that the leading edge is always visual arts, and Jonathan is a phenomenal translator of those ideas and a very powerful vision for what we could have in the future. So my role is really simple. I'm the seedsman for Carolina Gold Rice. I make sure that it's available year in, year out to growers. We do about 50 tons of pro bono, meaning free seed, to growers around the world every year.
The Charleston County government, and especially the Charleston County Transportation Sales Tax Program, is so proud to bring the community the traveling trunk. We're moving into all sorts of counties around Charleston, Georgetown, Berkeley, Dorchester County, and it seems that the word is spreading about this way of teaching African American history and rice history in South Carolina. We hope that you've enjoyed our program and all the wonderful guests who participated. Until the next time, this has been Cheryl Harleston with the Charleston County Transportation Sales Tax, talking about traveling trunks. For more information about the Charleston County Transportation Sales Tax Program and specific information on the road construction improvement projects, visit us on our web at roads.charlestoncounty.org. Also, connect with us on Facebook and Twitter at CC Roadwise.
The historical and cultural foundations of the nation should be preserved as a living part of our community life and development in order to give a sense of orientation to the American people, so states a section of the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. To that end, it is paramount to preserve the richness of the Lowcountry. Charleston County needed to expand the Palmetto Commerce Parkway to relieve traffic congestion along Dorchester Road and I-26, which run parallel to the parkway. But first, an archaeological survey had to be conducted.
When we conducted the survey, we walked through the swamps that are all around us here, and we quickly encountered several banks and canals and ditches that led us to believe right away that they were parts of inland rice fields.
In fact, all of the former plantations through which the Palmetto Commerce Parkway passes grew inland rice throughout the 18th century that were developed and maintained by enslaved Africans.
Due to this mitigation project, we were able to cut into the banks to study the internal composition of them, the way they were built and constructed. So we're actually learning about the technology involved in the building of these embankments.
Charleston County worked with the South Carolina Department of Archives and History to develop a plan to document and protect these important historical features.
To further educate the local community about the importance of rice and the enslaved Africans whose struggles made it possible, Charleston County has developed a traveling trunk program. The Inland Rice Fields Traveling Trunk Program is an interactive, hands-on educational tool geared towards elementary and middle school students. The program includes lesson plans, classroom activities, replica artifacts, and historical items.
I think Charleston County School District has long been aware of the connection between Charleston and the west coast of Africa, also known as the Rice Coast, as a key part of our local history and the development of the Carolina colony.
I think that our children need to know more about the history of the country. They need to know more of the history of why over 250,000 people were enslaved and brought here and what they did And the more children understand about the history, the better they're going to become as people.
I think it's pretty cool because it brings things from the 1700s. I think that's cool.
I think it's fantastic because we get to learn about things in the past that other people didn't know about.
I think it's kind of cool because it's kind of showing us stuff from the past.
I want to see this again because I have a feeling that if everybody else sees it, that they'll learn a lot.
If you want to talk about rice production in South Carolina Lowcountry, and you have a traveling trunk with items in that trunk that boys and girls can actually look at and feel and smell and listen to and play with, then that's the beginning of concrete, basic understandings that can be developed into abstracts.
Students learn about the plantation economy and the contribution of enslaved African individuals who were brought to this country and ultimately helped develop our economy and helped teach people about how to cultivate rice, how to make rice a lucrative product, and ultimately really contributed to the local development of this area. So we think that puts a lot of pride and self-esteem in our students when they know that their ancestors were part of the beginning of this wonderful area that we live in.
Thank you, Charleston County.